I should have known something was wrong when Terrence started scheduling my doctor's appointments without asking me first. My name is Trisha, and I'm 34 years old, 6 months pregnant, and I'm pretty sure my husband and his mother are trying to steal my baby. It didn't start that way, of course. Nothing ever does. When I met Terrence 3 years ago at a corporate mixer, he was everything I thought I wanted. Tall, confident, with this way of making everyone in the room feel like they were the most important person there. He sent flowers to my office the next day with a note that said, "Thank you for making last night unforgettable." I was a marketing director then, had my own apartment, my own car, my own life. I was doing well for myself, finally feeling like I'd figured things out after years of struggling with anxiety, and that one rough patch after college where I'd needed some therapy. Nothing dramatic, just the usual quarter-life crisis stuff that everyone goes through. But Terrence made me feel special, protected, like I could finally stop fighting so hard for everything. "You work too much," he'd say, rubbing my shoulders after a long day. "You're too stressed. Let me take care of you." After we got married, the stress from my job did seem overwhelming. The deadlines, the office politics, the constant pressure to perform. When I had what my doctor called a mild depressive episode, really just a few weeks of feeling burned out and crying more than usual, Terrence was right there with solutions. "Maybe it's time to step back," he suggested gently. "Focus on us, on starting our family." His mother, Margaret, agreed completely. "Career stress isn't good for a woman's fertility," she said over dinner one night, patting my hand. "Terrence makes plenty. You should be taking care of yourself." So I quit. And for a while, it felt like relief. The pregnancy happened faster than I expected. 1 month after I left my job, 2 pink lines stared back at me from the bathroom counter. Terrence was thrilled. "Perfect timing," he said, spinning me around the kitchen. "Now you can focus completely on being healthy." That's when the appointments started. "I scheduled you with Dr. Morrison for next Tuesday," he announced over breakfast one morning. "He's supposed to be the best OB in the city." "I thought we were going to research doctors together," I said. "I already did the research. Trust me, you'll love him." Margaret nodded approvingly from across the table. She'd been staying with us more and more lately. "To help with the transition." Her own words. "Terrence knows what's best," she said. "He's always been so thorough about these things." Dr. Morrison was fine, I guess. A little old-fashioned but competent. What bothered me was how Terrence dominated every appointment, asking questions I should have been asking, making decisions about my care like I wasn't even there. "We'd like to schedule extra monitoring," he told the doctor during my 12-week visit. "Trisha has a history of depression. We want to make sure everything stays stable." I stared at him. A history of depression? That was one episode, and it was work-related stress. "Honey, you were on medication for 3 months," he said softly, like he was talking to a child. "It's nothing to be ashamed of, but we need to be careful." Dr. Morrison nodded and made notes. "We'll keep an eye on things. Maybe consider some preventive therapy for postpartum issues." "I don't think that's necessary," I started to say, but Terrence squeezed my hand. "Let's just be safe," he said. That night, I tried calling my sister Bridget. We hadn't talked much since the wedding. She'd made some comments about Terrence that I didn't appreciate at the time, but I needed someone to talk to. "He's probably just worried," she said when I explained about the appointments. "First-time dad nerves, you know? But he's making decisions without me. Trisha, you've been through a lot. Maybe he's just trying to help." Even my own sister thought I was being dramatic. The therapy suggestion became a requirement. Margaret found someone, Dr. Patterson, a soft-spoken woman who specialized in maternal mental health. "Just to be proactive," Margaret explained. "We want to make sure you're in the best possible headspace for the baby." I went along with it. What choice did I have? Everyone seemed to think it was necessary, but something felt wrong. The way they talked about me like I wasn't there, the way they made decisions and presented them as suggestions, the way Margaret had somehow become a permanent fixture in our house, reorganizing my kitchen, rearranging my furniture, treating me like a guest in my own home. Last week, Margaret announced she'd be moving into the guest room permanently after the baby arrived. "Just until you get back on your feet," she said. "New mothers need so much support." "I haven't agreed to that," I said. Terrence looked up from his laptop. "Mom's just trying to help. You're going to need all the support you can get." "But I didn't ask for Trisha." His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "We've talked about this. You need to start thinking about what's best for the baby." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how my life had somehow become a series of decisions made by other people. How I'd gone from being an independent woman to someone who apparently couldn't be trusted to choose her own doctor. I was lying there staring at the ceiling when I heard voices in the hallway. Terrence and Margaret talking quietly outside our bedroom door. "The custody evaluation should be straightforward," Margaret was saying, "especially with her history." "The therapy sessions are helping build the case," Terrence replied. "Dr. Patterson thinks she's showing signs of prenatal anxiety, could easily escalate postpartum." "Good. The more documentation we have, the better. Just in case she becomes difficult." My blood turned to ice. I held my breath, straining to hear more. "She won't fight it," Terrence said. "She never fights anything. That's what makes this so easy." Their footsteps moved away, but I lay there frozen, their words echoing in my head. Custody evaluation, documentation. Just in case she becomes difficult. They weren't trying to help me. They were building a case against me. The next morning, I called Bridget while Terrence was at work and Margaret was at her book club. "I need to tell you something," I said, as soon as she picked up. "Last night I heard Terrence and Margaret talking about custody evaluations. They're documenting everything I do." Silence on the other end. "Bridget? Trisha, are you sure you heard that right? Maybe they were talking about something else." "No, I heard them clearly. They said they're building a case against me, in case I become difficult." "Honey, you're pregnant and stressed. Sometimes we mishear things when we're anxious." I gripped the phone tighter. "I know what I heard. Look, I've seen how Terrence looks at you. The man adores you, and Margaret's just, well, she's a mother-in-law. They're all a little controlling. But taking your baby? That's extreme. You didn't hear the way they were talking. Trisha, you said yourself you've been having some depression issues. Maybe you should talk to your therapist about these thoughts." I hung up. My own sister thought I was losing it. That afternoon, Margaret returned from book club with new rules. "I spoke with Dr. Patterson today," she announced, setting her purse on the kitchen counter. "She's concerned about your stress levels." "You spoke with my therapist?" "She called me. As your primary support system, she thought I should know about some of your concerns." My stomach dropped. "What concerns?" "Your paranoid thoughts about Terrence and me. She thinks you might be developing prenatal anxiety disorder." I never said anything paranoid to Dr. Patterson. Margaret smiled, that patient smile she always used when she thought I was being difficult. "Honey, you told her you think we're plotting against you. That's textbook paranoia." I had mentioned feeling like they were making decisions without me, but I'd never used the word plotting. "From now on, I'll be attending your appointments," Margaret continued. "Dr. Patterson thinks having a stable presence will help ground you. I don't want you at my appointments." "It's not about what you want anymore, dear. It's about what's best for the baby." When Terrence came home, he sat me down at the kitchen table like I was a child. "Mom told me about your session today," he said. "I'm worried about you." "There's nothing to worry about." "Trisha, you accused us of trying to steal your baby. That's not normal thinking." "I never said that to Dr. Patterson." "But you thought it, and thinking it is just as concerning." He reached across the table and took my hand. "I think we need to be more careful about your mental health. Maybe increase your therapy sessions." "I don't need more therapy." "The doctor thinks you do. And honestly, so do I." That night, I started keeping a journal. I wrote down everything, every conversation, every decision made without me, every time they spoke about me like I wasn't there. I hid it inside an old photo album in my closet. The next week, Margaret accompanied me to my OB appointment. She sat in the chair next to the examination table while I lay there in a hospital gown. "How are you feeling, Tricia?" Dr. Morrison asked. "Fine. The baby's moving a lot." "That's good. Any concerns?" I started to mention the headaches I'd been having, but Margaret interrupted. "She's been having some anxiety," she said. "Her therapist is concerned about paranoid thoughts." Dr. Morrison looked at me with new interest. "Paranoid thoughts?" "I'm not paranoid," I said. "I just feel like people are making decisions about my pregnancy without including me." "See?" Margaret said softly. "She thinks we're conspiring against her." Dr. Morrison made notes. "We'll want to monitor this closely. Prenatal anxiety can escalate quickly." After the appointment, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying not to cry. Every word I said was being twisted. Every concern was being labeled as a symptom. That evening, I found myself on Reddit, searching for stories about controlling husbands and manipulative in-laws. I found a thread about something called coercive control, a pattern of behavior designed to make someone doubt their own reality. One comment stood out. "If you're questioning your own sanity, document everything, and find a therapist they don't know about." I created a throwaway account and posted my story. The responses were immediate and unanimous. "This is abuse. Get help now." Someone private messaged me. "I'm a lawyer who specializes in these cases. There's a psychiatrist named Dr. Eleanor Hill who does evaluations for coercive control situations. She's expensive but worth it. Don't use your insurance. Pay cash so there's no record." I looked up Dr. Hill online. Her website was professional, clinical. She specialized in forensic psychiatry and had written papers on psychological manipulation in domestic relationships. I called from the grocery store parking lot the next day. "I need an evaluation," I told her receptionist. "I think my husband and his mother are trying to prove I'm mentally unstable." "Dr. Hill has an opening next week. The consultation fee is $500, cash only." I had some money saved from my old job. Money Terrence didn't know about. "I'll take it." The appointment was in a downtown office building. Dr. Hill was nothing like Dr. Patterson. Sharp, direct, with intelligent eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Tell me why you're here," she said. I told her everything. The appointment scheduled without me, the therapy I didn't want, the conversation I'd overheard. She took notes but didn't interrupt. "How long has this been going on?" she asked when I finished. "Since I got pregnant. Maybe before, but it's gotten worse." "And your previous therapist, Dr. Patterson, she's been in contact with your mother-in-law." "Yes. Margaret said she called her." Dr. Hill frowned. "That's a violation of confidentiality unless you signed a release." "I never signed anything." She made more notes. "I want to see you again next week. In the meantime, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Keep documenting everything, but also, I want you to record some of these conversations if you can do it safely." "Is that legal?" "In this state, yes, as long as you're part of the conversation." "And Tricia?" She looked at me seriously. "What you're describing isn't normal concern for a pregnant woman. It's systematic psychological manipulation." I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Validation. "We're not just documenting abuse," she continued. "We're building a case. You may be safer than you feel, but only if we move smart." Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Someone finally believed me. But as I drove home, a new fear crept in. If Dr. Hill was right, if this really was abuse, then what were Terrence and Margaret planning to do once the baby arrived? And how far would they go to get what they wanted? 2 days after my appointment with Dr. Hill, Savannah showed up at my door unannounced. Terrence's younger sister had always been polite but distant. We'd never had a real conversation beyond small talk at family gatherings. "Is Terrence home?" she asked, glancing over my shoulder. "He's at work. Margaret's at the grocery store." "Good. Can I come in?" I led her to the living room, wondering what could have brought her here. She sat on the edge of the couch, fidgeting with her car keys. "I need to tell you something," she said. "About Terrence." My heart started racing. "What about him?" "He did this before, with his ex-girlfriend Jessica." I stared at her. "Did what?" "The medical appointments, the therapy, the whole thing about her being unstable. She was pregnant too." "What happened to her?" Savannah looked down at her hands. "She lost the baby at 6 months. Stress-induced complications, the doctor said. But by then, Terrence had already convinced everyone she was having a breakdown. She moved back to her parents' house after the miscarriage." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw what he did to her, and I didn't say anything. I was younger, and I thought maybe she really was unstable. But watching him with you, seeing Mom get involved the same way." She looked up at me. "You're not crazy, Trisha. They're doing it again." I felt like I could finally breathe. "Thank you for telling me." "There's more. I think they're planning something for after the baby's born. I heard them talking about postpartum evaluations and temporary custody arrangements." "Temporary custody?" "If they can prove you're having a postpartum breakdown, they can petition for emergency custody, just until you're stable again." The room felt like it was spinning. "How do you know all this?" "Terrence looked into it after Jessica's miscarriage. He was obsessed with the idea that if she'd carried to term, she wouldn't have been fit to be a mother. He researched all the legal options." I gripped the arm of the couch. "What can I do?" "Document everything, and I mean everything. Do you have a way to record them?" "I've been keeping a journal." "That's not enough. You need audio, video if possible." She pulled out her phone. "There's an app that records automatically when it detects voices, but you need to be careful about where you put it." "Where would I hide it?" "The nursery. They spend a lot of time in there talking about preparations. I could help you set it up." We went upstairs to the baby's room. Savannah showed me how to download the app and position my old phone behind some books on the shelf, angled toward the rocking chair where Margaret liked to sit. "It'll record everything and upload to a cloud account," she explained. "Even if they find the phone, you'll still have the recordings." "Why are you helping me?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because I should have helped Jessica, and because that baby you're carrying is my niece or nephew. I won't let them use an innocent child as a weapon." After she left, I felt energized for the first time in weeks. I wasn't alone in this. That evening, Dr. Hill called me back. "I've been thinking about your case," she said. "I want to refer you to someone who can help with the legal aspects." "A lawyer?" "Yes, but not just any lawyer. Someone who understands coercive control cases. His name is Chandler Hudson." The name sounded familiar. "Chandler Hudson? You know him?" We dated in college, before I met Terrence. Even better, he'll understand your history, and he'll be motivated to help. I'll send him your file with your permission." "Yes, please." Chandler called me the next morning while Margaret was at her yoga class. "Trisha, I got Dr. Hill's referral. I have to say I'm concerned about what she's documented." "You believe me?" "Absolutely. And I want to help. Can you meet me today?" We met at a coffee shop across town. Chandler looked the same as he had in college. Kind eyes, steady presence, the kind of person who made you feel safe. "Dr. Hill showed me her preliminary notes," he said. "What they're doing is called reproductive coercion. It's a form of domestic abuse. Can you help me stop it?" "I can help you protect yourself legally. We need to get some documents notarized. A birth plan that specifies your wishes, a healthcare directive, and a statement of your mental competency." "Will that be enough?" "It's a start. But Trisha, you need to know. If they're planning what I think they're planning, they'll move fast after the baby's born. Postpartum is when women are most vulnerable legally." "What do you mean?" "Sleep deprivation, hormonal changes, the stress of a newborn. It's easy to make a new mother look unstable, especially if she has any history of mental health treatment." "So what do I do?" "We get ahead of them. Document everything. get a clean psychiatric evaluation, and prepare for the worst-case scenario. Which is? They try to take your baby. That night, I checked the recording app. There were 3 hours of audio from the afternoon. I put in earbuds and listened. Margaret's voice. The nursery needs to be perfect. When the social worker comes, everything has to look like we're the stable ones. Terrence. The therapy sessions are going well. Dr. Patterson thinks she'll have enough documentation for a competency hearing if needed. Margaret. Good. We can't have her making decisions about the baby's welfare, not in her condition. Terrence. She won't fight it. She never fights anything. That's what makes this so easy. Margaret laughed. Poor thing doesn't even realize what's happening. By the time she figures it out, it'll be too late. I pulled out the earbuds, my hands shaking. They were talking about me like I was already gone, like I was just an obstacle to remove. But they were wrong about one thing. I was going to fight, and I was going to win. 3 weeks later, Margaret announced she was throwing me a baby shower. It'll be perfect, she said, spreading fabric samples across the kitchen table. I've already booked the country club for next Saturday, 50 guests. 50? I don't even know 50 people. I invited everyone from the neighborhood, your old work friends, the ladies from my book club. It's going to be a celebration of new life. Terrence looked up from his laptop. Mom's put so much work into this. You should be grateful. I am grateful, but— No buts, Margaret interrupted. This baby deserves a proper welcome. And honestly, dear, you need the support network, especially with everything you've been going through. I watched her arrange invitation samples with military precision. This wasn't about celebrating the baby. This was about control, about putting me on display in front of an audience. I'd like to help plan it, I said. Oh, sweetheart, you have enough to worry about. Let me handle the details. Over the next few days, I watched Margaret orchestrate the event, like a general preparing for battle. She hired caterers, ordered flowers, and sent invitations without showing me the guest list. When I asked to see it, she waved me off. Trust me, everyone who matters will be there. I met with Dr. Hill twice more that week. She completed my psychiatric evaluation, a comprehensive assessment that took 4 hours and included cognitive tests, personality assessments, and detailed interviews about my mental health history. Your results are excellent, she told me during our final session. No signs of depression, anxiety disorders, or any condition that would impair your judgment or parenting ability. The mild depressive episode you had years ago was situational and fully resolved. Will you put that in writing? I already have. This report is ironclad, Tricia. If anyone questions your mental competency, this document will shut them down immediately. She handed me a sealed envelope. Keep this safe. And remember, timing is everything. Chandler helped me prepare the legal documents. We met at his office the day before the shower. I've notarized everything, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Your birth plan, healthcare directives, and a statement of mental competency. Plus, I've prepared an emergency custody petition in case they try to move against you. What about the recordings? I've reviewed them all. They're legally admissible and clearly demonstrate a pattern of coercive control. But Tricia, you need to be careful about when and how you use this evidence. What do you mean? If you reveal everything too early, they'll have time to regroup and change tactics. But if you wait too long, they might act first. So when? You'll know. Trust your instincts. That evening, Savannah stopped by while Terrence was at his poker game and Margaret was at the country club finalizing shower details. I have something for you, she said, pulling a USB drive from her purse. I recorded them yesterday when they thought I was out. What's on it? Just listen to it when you're alone. But Tricia, what they're planning? It's worse than I thought. After she left, I plugged the USB into my laptop. The recording was crystal clear. Terrence and Margaret in the living room, talking in low voices. Margaret, the shower is perfect timing. Everyone will see how unstable she's become. Terrence, Dr. Patterson's report should be ready by Monday. She's documented everything. The paranoid thoughts, the accusations, the inability to make rational decisions. Margaret. And after the baby comes? Terrence. We give her a week to show signs of postpartum depression. Shouldn't be hard. New mothers are emotional anyway. Then we petition for emergency custody. Margaret. What if she fights it? Terrence. With what? Her history of depression, the therapy records, witness testimony about her behavior. She won't have a leg to stand on. Margaret. Good. We don't need her after the birth anyway. Once postpartum hits, she won't be able to argue custody. The baby will be better off with us. I stopped the recording, my hands trembling. They were planning to take my baby within a week of birth. They'd already decided I was unfit before I'd even given birth. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They thought I was weak. The morning of the shower, I woke up with absolute clarity. I put on the maternity dress Margaret had chosen, pale blue with tiny flowers, designed to make me look fragile and childlike. I did my hair the way she liked it, soft and feminine. I played the part perfectly. You look beautiful, dear, Margaret said as we arrived at the country club, like a proper mother-to-be. The venue was decorated in pastels, with balloons and flowers everywhere. Guests were already arriving, women I barely knew, neighbors I'd spoken to maybe twice, colleagues from my old job who looked uncomfortable to be there. I smiled and accepted their congratulations, playing the grateful, expectant mother while Margaret orchestrated everything from the sidelines. Trisha's been so emotional lately, I heard her tell Mrs. Henderson from down the street. Pregnancy hormones, you know. We're all just trying to support her. Terrence arrived with a photographer, another detail I hadn't been consulted on. We want to capture every moment, he announced. This is such a special day. As the afternoon progressed, I watched them work the room, Margaret positioning herself as the concerned mother-in-law, Terrence as the devoted husband worried about his unstable wife. They were setting the stage for what came next. During the gift opening, Terrence stood up to make a speech. I want to thank everyone for being here today, he began. This baby is so lucky to have such a wonderful support system, especially with everything Trisha's been going through lately. Murmurs of concern rippled through the crowd. As many of you know, pregnancy has been challenging for her emotionally. We're all just grateful that my mother will be here to help with the transition to motherhood. More murmurs. I saw women exchanging glances, nodding sympathetically. In fact, Terrence continued, we've decided that Mom will be taking on primary caregiving duties for the first few months, just until Trisha feels more stable. The room went quiet. This was news to everyone, including me. At least it was supposed to be. I stood up slowly, one hand on my belly. Actually, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room, I have something to share too. Terrence's smile faltered slightly. Honey, maybe we should— No, I think everyone should hear this. I reached into my purse and pulled out the sealed envelope from Dr. Hill. I have a gift for everyone. Something that shows how much I've been thinking about this baby's future. I placed the envelope on the gift table, right next to the pile of baby clothes and toys. Go ahead, I said to Margaret. Open it. Margaret's face had gone pale, but she couldn't refuse without looking suspicious. She picked up the envelope with shaking hands. What is this, dear? Just open it. I think you'll find it very interesting. She tore open the seal and pulled out the psychiatric evaluation. As she read the first page, her face went white. You, she whispered, you talked to Eleanor Hill? The room erupted in confused murmurs. Someone asked who Eleanor Hill was. Another person wanted to know what was in the report. I smiled at Margaret, the same patient smile she'd been giving me for months. Would you like to read it out loud? Or should I? Margaret clutched the papers against her chest. This is private medical information. You can't just— Actually, I can. I took the report from her hands. It's my evaluation, my choice to share it. The room had gone completely silent. 50 pairs of eyes watched as I unfolded the document. This is a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation conducted by Dr. Eleanor Hill, one of the state's leading forensic psychiatrists. My voice was steady, clear. She specializes in cases involving psychological manipulation and coercive control. Terrence stepped forward. Trisha, you're upset. Maybe we should discuss this privately. No, I think our guests deserve to know the truth, especially since you just announced that your mother would be raising my baby because I'm supposedly unstable. I looked around the room. Some women were leaning forward. Others looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Henderson had her phone out, probably recording. According to Dr. Hill's evaluation, I show no signs of depression, anxiety, or any mental health condition that would impair my judgment or parenting ability. In fact, she notes that I demonstrate exceptional emotional resilience in the face of systematic psychological manipulation. Margaret made a strangled sound. That's not, she doesn't understand the situation. Oh, but she does. I flipped to the second page. She also notes evidence of what's called reproductive coercion, a pattern of behavior designed to control a woman's reproductive choices and undermine her confidence in her own parenting abilities. The photographer had stopped taking pictures. Several guests were whispering to each other. The evaluation includes detailed documentation of recorded conversations, medical records showing appointments scheduled without my consent, and evidence of deliberate isolation from my support network. Terrence's face had gone red. Those recordings were made without permission. They're not legal. Actually, they are. In this state, I have the right to record any conversation I'm part of. And I was part of all of them, even when you thought I wasn't listening. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. Would you like to hear some examples? Trisha, stop this. Terrence's voice had an edge I'd never heard in public. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? Let's see what our guests think. I pressed play on the most damning recording. Margaret's voice filled the room. We don't need her after the birth anyway. Once postpartum hits, she won't be able to argue custody. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. Terrence's voice followed. She won't fight it. She never fights anything. That's what makes this so easy. The room erupted. Women were standing up, talking over each other. Mrs. Henderson was definitely recording now. Turn that off, Margaret hissed, lunging for my phone. I stepped back. There's more. Hours of it, actually. Conversations about custody evaluations, plans to have me declared unfit, discussions about how to manipulate my medical care. Savannah stood up from the back of the room. It's all true. I've heard them planning this for weeks. Terrence spun around. Savannah, stay out of this. No, I won't stay out of it. I watched you do this to Jessica, and I said nothing. I won't make that mistake again. Several guests looked confused. Someone asked who Jessica was. His ex-girlfriend, Savannah announced. He did the same thing to her when she was pregnant. Convinced everyone she was unstable, isolated her from her friends, controlled her medical care. She lost the baby from stress. The room was in chaos now. Women were gathering their purses, some heading for the door. Others were surrounding me, asking if I was okay, if I needed help. Margaret tried to regain control. This is all a misunderstanding. Trisha's been having paranoid thoughts. Paranoid thoughts? I held up my phone again. Let's hear what you really think about my mental state. I played another clip. Margaret laughing as she said, Poor thing doesn't even realize what's happening. By the time she figures it out, it'll be too late. That was the breaking point. Women started shouting at Margaret, demanding explanations. Someone called her disgusting. Another person said they were calling the police. Through the chaos, I saw Chandler enter the room. He'd been waiting outside, ready to act if needed. Ladies, he called out, his lawyer voice cutting through the noise. I'm Chandler Hudson, Trisha's attorney. I have additional documentation if anyone's interested. He pulled out his phone and began forwarding files. I'm sending the complete psychiatric evaluation, legal documents proving Trisha's mental competency, and audio files of the recorded conversations to everyone in this room. Feel free to share them. Terrence grabbed my arm. You can't do this. These are private family matters. I yanked away from him. Private? You just announced to 50 people that your mother would be raising my baby because I'm unfit. You made it public. We were trying to help you. Help me? I laughed, and it felt good. You were trying to steal my child. Margaret had collapsed into a chair, her face buried in her hands. The photographer was packing up his equipment, clearly wanting to escape. Alice Hughes, the neighborhood gossip, was already typing furiously on her phone. "This is going straight to the parenting forum," she announced. "Everyone needs to know about this." "Please don't," Terrence said, his composure finally cracking. "Think about the baby. Think about our family's reputation." "I am thinking about the baby," I said. "That's why I'm stopping you." Chandler approached me with a folder. "Trisha, I have the emergency custody documents ready, and I've already contacted Child Protective Services." "CPS?" Margaret looked up, panicked. "Not to investigate Trisha," Chandler clarified. "To investigate the attempted coercive control of a pregnant woman. They take reproductive abuse very seriously." The room was emptying now. Guests were leaving in groups, talking excitedly. I could hear fragments of conversation. "Can you believe that poor woman? I always thought something was off." Terrence made one last attempt at damage control. "Everyone's overreacting. We just wanted what's best for the baby." "What's best for the baby," I said, "is a mother who's free from manipulation and control. What's best for the baby is the truth." I looked around the nearly empty room. Margaret was still in her chair, staring at nothing. Terrence was on his phone, probably calling his lawyer. Savannah approached me. "Are you okay?" "I'm perfect," I said, and for the first time in months, I meant it. Chandler handed me another document. "Emergency restraining order. I filed it this morning, effective immediately." "What does that mean?" "It means they can't make any decisions about your medical care, they can't attend your appointments, and they can't be present at the birth without your explicit permission." I looked at Terrence, who was still frantically making phone calls. "I have one more thing to tell you," I said loudly enough for him to hear. He looked up, his face desperate. "I've already spoken with a judge about emergency custody arrangements. The baby will be staying with me from the moment of birth. You'll have supervised visitation only." "You can't do that." "I already did." I handed him the divorce papers Chandler had prepared. "You wanted a clean break from an unstable wife?" I said. "Congratulations. You're getting one." Terrence stared at the divorce papers like they were written in a foreign language. "You can't be serious," he said. "We can work this out. We can go to counseling." "Counseling?" I laughed. "You mean more therapy where you and your mother convince another doctor that I'm crazy? That's not what we were doing." "Really? Then explain this." I pulled out my phone and played another recording. His voice filled the empty country club. "Dr. Patterson's report should be ready by Monday. She's documented everything. The paranoid thoughts, the accusations, the inability to make rational decisions." Terrence's face went pale. "You recorded that?" "I recorded everything. Every conversation, every plan, every lie you told about my mental health." Margaret finally looked up from her chair. "We were protecting the baby. You don't understand the stress you've been under. The only stress I've been under is from you two trying to gaslight me into believing I'm insane." Chandler stepped forward. "Terrence, I'd advise you to contact your own attorney. These proceedings are moving forward with or without your cooperation." "This is insane," Terrence said. "Trisha, think about what you're doing. Think about our marriage." "I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about how you scheduled my medical appointments without asking. How you encouraged me to quit my job so I'd be financially dependent. How you moved your mother into our house without my consent. Those were practical decisions. Those were control tactics, and they worked until I figured out what you were really doing." Savannah approached Terrence. I told her about Jessica. His face went white. "Jessica has nothing to do with this." "Doesn't she? You used the exact same playbook. Isolate the woman, control her medical care, convince everyone she's unstable, then swoop in as the hero when she breaks down. Jessica was actually unstable. Jessica lost her baby because of the stress you put her under, Savannah shot back. And you were planning to do the same thing to Trisha. Margaret stood up shakily. We need to call Dr. Patterson. She'll explain that Trisha needs help. Dr. Patterson violated patient confidentiality by talking to you, Chandler said. She's already been reported to the state licensing board. What? Margaret's voice cracked. Any therapist who shares patient information with family members without written consent can lose their license. Dr. Patterson is facing an ethics investigation. I watched Margaret's face crumble as she realized the extent of what was happening. You've destroyed everything, she whispered. I've protected my child, I corrected. Something you should have been doing instead of plotting against me. Terrence tried a different approach. Trisha, I love you. We can fix this. You love controlling me. There's a difference. That's not true. Then why did you research custody laws after Jessica's miscarriage? Why did you have a plan ready to take my baby before I even showed signs of postpartum depression? He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was no good answer. My phone buzzed with a text from Alice Hughes. Posted the video on Mommy Talk forum. Already has 500 views and climbing. I showed the message to Terrence. It's too late for damage control. The whole internet is going to know what you tried to do. You're ruining our family's reputation. You ruined it when you decided to abuse your pregnant wife. Chandler's phone rang. He answered, spoke briefly, then hung up. That was Child Protective Services, he announced. They want to interview both of you tomorrow, separately. CPS is investigating us? Terrence looked panicked. They're investigating the attempted coercive control of a pregnant woman and plans to manipulate custody proceedings. It's a form of child abuse. Margaret made a choking sound. Child abuse? Using a child as a weapon against their mother is absolutely child abuse, Chandler said. The state takes it very seriously. We never hurt the baby, Margaret protested. You plan to separate the baby from their mother based on fabricated mental health concerns. That's psychological abuse. Terrence pulled out his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. Good idea, I said. You're going to need one. As he walked away to make the call, Savannah sat down next to me. How are you feeling? Terrified, I admitted. But also free. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe. What happens now? Now I have my baby in peace. I raise them without manipulation or control. I become the mother I was meant to be. Chandler rejoined us. I've filed for an emergency protective order. They can't come within 500 feet of you or the hospital when you give birth. What about after the baby's born? Supervised visitation only, and only if they complete court-ordered counseling for domestic abuse. Margaret overheard. Domestic abuse? We never laid a hand on her. Emotional abuse is still abuse, Chandler said. Psychological manipulation, coercive control, reproductive abuse, they're all forms of domestic violence. This is ridiculous, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Terrence returned from his phone call, looking defeated. My lawyer says I should cooperate with the investigation. Smart advice, Chandler said. He also says... Terrence looked at me with something that might have been regret. He says I should apologize. For what? For making you feel like you couldn't trust your own judgment. For letting my mother interfere in our marriage. For planning to take the baby. I stared at him. Do you actually mean that? Or is that what your lawyer told you to say? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know anymore. I thought I was protecting you, protecting our family. From what? From you making mistakes. From you not being strong enough to handle motherhood. And who decided I wasn't strong enough? Another long pause. I did. We did. Based on what? One episode of work stress 5 years ago? Based on... He struggled for words. based on wanting to be in control, I guess. It was the first honest thing he'd said all day. Well, congratulations, I said. You're not in control anymore. I stood up, my hand on my belly, feeling the baby kick as if in agreement. I'm going home to pack your things. You and your mother need to find somewhere else to stay. Trisha, please. The locks will be changed by tomorrow morning. Any attempt to enter the house will be considered trespassing. I walked toward the exit, Chandler and Savannah flanking me like bodyguards. This isn't over, Margaret called after me. I turned back one last time. You're right. It's not over. It's just beginning. What do you mean? I mean, everyone's going to know what you tried to do. Every mother, every pregnant woman, every person who's ever been gaslit by someone they trusted. They're all going to hear this story. You can't do that to us. I'm not doing it to you, I said. You did it to yourselves. As we walked to the parking lot, I felt the baby kick again, stronger this time. Almost there, little one, I whispered. Almost safe. By Monday morning, Alice Hughes' video had exploded across social media. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications as the story spread from parenting forums to Twitter to TikTok. Holy shit, Trisha, Savannah said, scrolling through her phone as we sat in Chandler's office. This has gone completely viral. Baby shower expose is trending. Chandler looked up from his laptop. The video has 2 million views and counting. Local news stations are calling my office. Is that good or bad? Good for your case. Bad for Terrence and Margaret's reputation. My phone rang. The caller ID showed my old boss from the marketing firm. Trisha, it's Janet. I just saw the video. Are you okay? I'm fine, Janet. Better than fine, actually. I had no idea what you were going through. When you quit, Terrence told us you were having emotional problems and needed to focus on your health. He told you that? He called the office personally, said you were too embarrassed to explain yourself but that you were getting treatment for depression. I looked at Chandler, who was taking notes. Janet, would you be willing to put that in writing? Absolutely. I'm so sorry we didn't reach out. We thought we were respecting your privacy. After I hung up, Chandler's phone rang. He answered, spoke briefly, then turned to me with a grim expression. That was CPS. They want to see you this afternoon. Terrence and Margaret's interviews didn't go well. What happened? Margaret tried to convince the caseworker that you were having a psychotic break. She brought Dr. Patterson's notes as evidence. And? Dr. Patterson's notes directly contradict Dr. Hill's evaluation. The caseworker wants to know why 2 mental health professionals have completely different assessments of the same patient. We arrived at the CPS office an hour later. The caseworker, Ms. Rodriguez, was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who looked like she'd seen every form of family dysfunction imaginable. Mrs. Welch, I've reviewed your case file. I have to say, this is one of the more disturbing situations I've encountered. Disturbing how? The level of premeditation involved. Most custody disputes happen after a child is born. This appears to be a calculated attempt to undermine your parental rights before birth. She pulled out a thick folder. I've reviewed Dr. Hill's evaluation, the recorded conversations, and the testimony from your sister-in-law. I've also spoken with Dr. Patterson. What did she say? She admitted that your mother-in-law contacted her multiple times to discuss your case. She claims she thought she had your permission. I never gave permission. I know. She's facing disciplinary action from the state board. But more importantly, she acknowledged that her assessment was based largely on information provided by your husband and mother-in-law, not on her direct observations of you. Ms. Rodriguez leaned forward. Mrs. Welch, I want to be clear about something. CPS is not investigating you. We're investigating them. For what? Attempted parental alienation, reproductive coercion, and conspiracy to manipulate custody proceedings. These are serious charges. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your story online. You're an inspiration. My husband tried the same thing. Thank you for speaking out. Then another. Going through something similar. Can you recommend Dr. Hill? And another. You're so brave. I wish I'd had your courage. Ms. Rodriguez, I said, what happens now? Now we make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. I'm recommending supervised visitation only for your husband, and no contact with your mother-in-law until she completes a psychological evaluation. What about after the baby's born? You'll have full custody. They'll need to petition the court for any changes, and given the evidence we have, that's unlikely to succeed. When we left the CPS office, Chandler's phone was ringing non-stop. 3 news stations want interviews, he said, and someone from a documentary production company. I don't want to be famous for this. You might not have a choice. This story is resonating with people. That evening, I was at home packing Terrence's belongings when he showed up at the door. The locks aren't changed yet, he said, walking in uninvited. They will be tomorrow. What do you want? I want to talk. Without lawyers, without my mother, without cameras. Fine. Talk. He sat down heavily on the couch. I fucked up, Trisha. I fucked up everything. Yes, you did. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I knew what was best. You thought you could control me. Yeah, I did. He looked up at me. My mother, she's been controlling people my whole life. I guess I learned from her. That's not an excuse. I know. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to understand how I became someone who would do this to the person I love. Do you love me? Or do you love the idea of me being dependent on you? He was quiet for a long time. I don't know the difference anymore. That's the problem. Can we fix this? Can we go to real counseling, not the bullshit manipulation we were doing before? I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd married, the man I'd trusted, the man who'd tried to steal my baby. Terrence, even if we could fix this, I don't want to. I don't want to be married to someone who thinks so little of me that they'd plan to take my child. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. You hurt me in ways I'm still discovering. He nodded, tears in his eyes. What can I do? You can sign the divorce papers. You can stay away from me and the baby until you figure out how to be a decent human being. And you can make sure your mother never contacts me again. She's devastated. She really thought she was helping. She's a manipulative woman who raised a manipulative son. I don't care if she's devastated. He stood up. I'll sign the papers. Good. And Trisha? For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo what you did. After he left, I sat in the nursery, surrounded by baby clothes and toys, feeling the baby kick inside me. My phone buzzed with another message. Saw your video. You saved my marriage. I showed it to my husband, and he finally understood what he was doing to me. Then another. Thank you for being brave enough to speak out. You're helping so many women. I realized that what had started as my personal nightmare had become something bigger. Women were sharing their own stories in the comments, recognizing patterns of control they'd never named before. I wasn't just fighting for my baby anymore. I was fighting for all of us. Emma Rose arrived on a Tuesday morning in October, screaming her lungs out and perfect in every way. I held her against my chest in the hospital room, just the two of us, exactly as I'd planned. She's beautiful, the nurse said, checking Emma's vitals. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a healthy set of lungs. She's perfect, I whispered, kissing her tiny forehead. Savannah arrived an hour later with flowers and tears in her eyes. Oh my God, Trisha. She's gorgeous. She sat carefully on the edge of the bed. How are you feeling? Tired, happy, free. Any word from Terrence? He texted congratulations, asked if he could visit. What did you tell him? That he can meet his daughter when he completes the court-ordered counseling, not before. My phone buzzed with a message from Bridget. Saw the baby photos. She's beautiful. I'm sorry I didn't believe you before. Can I come visit? I showed the message to Savannah. My sister wants to meet Emma. That's good, right? It's a start. Dr. Hill stopped by that afternoon to check on me. She'd been following the case closely since the story went viral. "How are you adjusting to motherhood?" she asked, watching me feed Emma. "It's everything I hoped it would be. Peaceful, natural, no one telling me I'm doing it wrong." "And your mental state?" "Never been better. Turns out I'm a pretty good mother when I'm not being told I'm crazy." She smiled. "I've been getting calls from women across the country asking for evaluations. Your story has opened a lot of eyes." "Good. Maybe other women won't have to go through what I did." Chandler arrived as Dr. Hill was leaving. He had a stack of papers and a serious expression. "How's our little fighter?" he asked, peeking at Emma. "She's perfect. What's all that?" "Divorce papers. Terrence signed them. Also, the restraining order against Margaret has been made permanent." "What does that mean?" "She can't contact you or Emma without court approval. And given her behavior during the CPS investigation, that's unlikely to happen." "What did she do?" "She tried to convince the caseworker that you'd brainwashed me and Dr. Hill into lying for you. She also claimed the recordings were fabricated." "Seriously?" "The caseworker recommended she undergo a psychological evaluation before any contact with Emma is considered." I looked down at my daughter, sleeping peacefully in my arms. Good. She's never getting near my baby. Alice Hughes knocked on the door, carrying a huge bouquet. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by," she said. "I wanted to apologize." "For what?" "For not seeing what was happening sooner. For being so focused on gossip that I missed actual abuse happening right in front of me." "Alice, you helped expose the truth. That video probably saved my life." "I've been getting messages from women all over the world. They're sharing their own stories, thanking you for speaking out." She pulled out her phone. "Look at this." The screen showed thousands of comments on the original video. Women describing similar experiences, sharing resources, supporting each other. "You started something, Trisha. A movement. I just wanted to protect my baby." "You protected a lot of babies, and mothers, and families." That evening, as visiting hours ended, I was alone with Emma when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Trisha, the woman from the baby shower video?" "Yes. My name is Sarah. I'm a producer for a documentary series about domestic abuse. We'd like to tell your story." "I don't know if I'm ready for that." "We're not talking about exploiting your experience. We want to educate people about coercive control, reproductive abuse, the warning signs. Your story could help save lives." I looked at Emma, thinking about the world I wanted her to grow up in. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But Trisha, what you did was incredibly brave. You turned your pain into power." The next morning, Bridget arrived with coffee and an apology. "I should have believed you," she said, sitting in the chair next to my bed. "I should have listened." "You weren't the only one who didn't see it." "But I'm your sister. I should have known." They were very good at hiding it. Even I didn't fully understand what was happening until Dr. Hill explained it. "Can I hold her?" I passed Emma to Bridget, watching my sister's face soften as she cradled her niece. "She's so peaceful," Bridget said, "like she knows she's safe." She is safe, finally. What happens now? Now I raise my daughter. I work from home. I build a life without manipulation or control. I heal. And Terrence? He can be part of Emma's life if he does the work to change, but he'll never be part of mine again. My phone buzzed with another message from a stranger. "Watching your story gave me the courage to leave my abusive marriage. Thank you." Then another. "I'm a therapist. I'm using your case to train other professionals about coercive control." And another. "You're a hero to so many women. Thank you for fighting back." I looked at Emma, sleeping in her aunt's arms, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. "You know what the best part is?" I told Bridget. "What?" "They thought they were burying me, isolating me, breaking me down, making me disappear. But?" I smiled, remembering the final line I'd written in my journal the night before Emma was born. "They buried me in shallow doubt. I grew roots." Emma opened her eyes and looked at me, as if she understood every word. And now we're both free to grow,